Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of the Detour Live. I'm your host, Dan Jones, joined as always by four-time national road champion Johnny Trevorrow, and another cracking episode ahead tonight, mate, because we're talking to an honorary Aussie. He's actually Dutch, but by listening to him, you'd think he grew up in the western suburbs of Melbourne.
Koen de Kort, yeah, what a legend. And as you say, it's been a lot of summers out in Australia. Whenever I would have a Bay Crits launch, I would always call on Koen. Got in early.
48 seconds in. That's a new detour record.
But Koen would never let me down. He'd always come along to my Bay Crits launch as the international.
Yeah. Well, let's not keep him waiting because he joins us live from the Maldives. Koen de Kort, welcome to the Detour Live, mate.
Hey, guys.
Good to see you roughing it.
Yeah, it's pretty tough here. You know, this is a very tough resort here. Having a really hard time with just the pool in the background here and the beach just behind. So, you know, yeah, I can't really complain.
Now, Jason Cruz is a massive fan of the show, but you're great support. He obviously put up a prize that we could auction off, and that is, of course, at the Amilla Resorts. If anyone wants to check it out, amilla.com. What have you been up to so far in the Maldives, mate?
Just some really nice food. So I probably put on a little bit of weight. They got a great bar here as well. So, you know, a couple of beers for sure. And otherwise I've been mostly diving. A lot of diving, bit of snorkeling. The reef is just super beautiful. So yeah, you know, there's plenty to do here. It sounds like a commercial, but it really is a nice resort, right?
Hey, mate, we're happy to give Amilla a plug because he's been fantastic for our show. But you are, as we said in the intro, you are an honorary Aussie. You spent a lot of time in Australia, particularly in Melbourne, over the years, mate.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, I've been missing out on my Melbourne fix because of COVID, of course. But yeah, I've been there many times. I think I must have been in Melbourne 10 times, 10 off seasons, and I think maybe in Australia 14 or 15 because I used to go to Bundaberg before with Aaron Kemps and Ellen Davis. You probably still remember, Johnny?
Of course, I can, yeah. I could probably go back and count all the launches of the Bay Crits and work out how many years you were there.
Yeah, exactly. I was always there. Definitely always.
But obviously, it's been a tough couple of years for most people with COVID, but 2021's been a real difficult year for yourself. It was widely publicised. You know, you had the accident 4 months ago. How is your recovery from then, and how are you travelling?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, it was super, yeah, like a shock, really. You know, I was in hospital for 2.5 weeks. It was hard to deal with. You know, I mean, it's losing 3 fingers is obviously like a big deal, right? So yeah, it was very, very hard at the time. But then since coming out of hospital, you know, and starting to be able to do more and more things again. It turns out that if it's 7 fingers, you can do really a lot as well. And going into a new role with the cyclist, but a new role that also helped a lot. I think that in a way, this came at the right moment, so to say. If there ever is a right moment for it, then that was probably it, because I was kind of over cycling, like active cycling anyway. I was ready to retire, so. Yeah, I mean, if this would have happened 10 years ago, it would have probably been a lot harder. But yeah, it was still tough to deal with at first, but I'm fine now. Like, the recovery is great. As I said, I've been scuba diving, and you know, it's all great. It's completely healed. I have no problems with the wounds anymore. And yeah, with the thumb and index on the right hand, I can still do everything. I can write, you know, use knives, everything. So. No, it's okay.
That's great to hear, mate.
Just a question there. As you say, you were ready to retire, and you'd already said it probably would have been your last year. But if it had have been earlier in your career, do you think you would have been able to race again with that injury?
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think, I mean, I can ride now. I can definitely ride my bike. I can get out of the seat. I can sprint. I can do everything. So I think it would have been possible to race again. I'm just not sure how confident I would be racing back into peloton, right? I mean, it's a lot of braking and split second stuff, and especially in the role that I used to do, like in the bunch sprints and lead outs, etc. You want to be really stable, and I'm not sure if I can have that same level of confidence again. So maybe it would have been possible, but it would have been extra difficult.
Now, there might be some people listening that go, what are you talking about? We know you've had an accident. It was a quad bike accident, was it? In Andorra, and your fingers got caught?
Yeah, it was actually in a buggy. So one of these off-road vehicles with a full roll cage around it. And I was like on a little bit of a slope, and the buggy just sort of was skidding sideways a little bit, and then it hit a rock. So I was going really slow. So it was kind of like on the tipping point for a while. So the exact moment when it happened, due to shock, I guess I've forgotten. But all I can remember is that I thought it was going to roll, and then I thought, oh no, it's not rolling. It's going to get back onto its wheels, and then it rolled anyway. So from what I think happened is that I was just kind of like balancing with my arm out of the side of the buggy because it was sort of on the tipping point, and then it rolled, and then the roll cage rolled right over my hand, just like super unlucky.
And did you know in that moment that, okay, something serious has happened? Because I read an article where you couldn't get yourself out of the harness.
Yeah, no, that's right. I didn't even feel anything. I didn't know it happened. I was just upside down. It's like, oh wow, I actually rolled it. I can't believe it. And then I tried to get myself out of the seatbelt, and then I saw my hand, and that's when I first noticed it. So I'm lucky that I had some mates there with me who got me out of there really quickly. But I couldn't get myself out.
And then I also saw that, so they choppered you to Barcelona. Obviously, we don't want to harp too much about the accident because there's so much of your career we want to talk about. But then they basically told you, we can't save these fingers. We're gonna have to lose the last 3 fingers on your right hand.
Yeah, so I was in the chopper, and then they took me straight away to the best hospital in Barcelona for these kind of injuries. So everybody since has told me that I was super lucky they took me there, because what they said when I was there is they said they hoped they were going to be able to save the index finger, because like the other 3 fingers were definitely gone, so they had no chance. I was just unlucky it didn't roll just over the fingers. It rolled right over the knuckles, and the knuckles were just completely crushed. So there was nothing to fix there anymore. It was just that the index finger was pretty badly damaged, and they were hoping they were going to be able to save that, and they did do a great job with that.
Yeah. Look, I don't want to go on any more about it. You've said it all as far as I'm just excited to hear about your new role with the team. You were talking about it earlier. So tell us about that. So it's called team support
manager. Yeah.
Manager. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is. It's an exciting role because we have, as long as I was with this team, we have one guy in that role. Matt Shriver, and he was like at the time was called the technical director of the team. So he was in charge of all the equipment and all the testing, etc. So I always saw him and his role, and I thought that it was a pretty cool job. So when I heard that he was going to stop and sort of retire from that role, I was always thinking that would be a nice opportunity for me. So. Already early in January, I started talking to Track, the Track Factory, the company, about potential for me to go into this role. And I had already done quite a lot of job interviews, etc. By the time the accident happened, it was almost kind of a done deal already. So that was pretty good. But yeah, now it's just making sure the team's got all the equipment they need. So we get a budget for the equipment, so that we have to buy all the equipment, and I'm in charge of that budget. Then making sure there's enough group sets, frames, wheels, handlebars, shoes, clothing, and then we do wind tunnel tests, aerodynamics tests on the velodrome. the semi-custom handlebars that we do. Everything with a lot of support from Trek, but a job with the team at the moment.
You're perfect for that role because it takes someone that's honest. Because I mean, if it was Johnny running the show, he'd probably get a bit of a surplus going, a couple of cashies. Here's a frame that fell off the back of the truck. But I mean, tell people how, like, the scale of that job. I mean, how much equipment is involved with the pro cycling team?
Oh, there's lots. So I mean, I'm lucky that from a one-man job that Matt Shriver used to do, it's now the two of us. So Glenn Laven. He used to be a mechanic, the head mechanic of the team. He's gone into the role together with me because we have the women's team is growing and growing. So we have and then we have the men's team. So we'll have 45 riders in total for next year. Now everybody gets 4 bikes essentially, at least. So you can count all that up. We've been ordering wheels now, and it's just it's not just a couple of wheels. It's like 200 of that, and it's 100 of another wheel. It's unbelievable how much equipment's needed just for one season.
Yeah, and also now that they're developing the gravel racing, a lot of the guys that are doing that would be another bike as well, I guess.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think that Trek, the off-road team, is going to look after some of the gravel races. So we only have to provide for the road riders that want to do some gravel races. We do have a great Roubaix bike that can also be used for gravel, but Trek does have a specific gravel bike. So I can imagine that Quinn Simmons would like to do some gravel races again back in the States. So yeah, he'll need another bike for that, and we've got to make sure that he gets that bike in time, which is now also a bit of an issue in the cycling industry.
I've got a couple of live comments. Obviously, Wendy Superfan. Hi guys, and Koen spelled Koen wrong. It's all right. She had a crack. Janice says, "Glad you recovered well, Koen." And
thanks,
Ian
Janice.
Thomas says, Koen, is your job for both men's and women's teams. Trek is really good at combining expertise, I'm sure. Now, Trek is obviously the team that were pivotal in the wages for women's pro cycling as well. They're really on the forefront with a lot of things.
No, absolutely. So the job is for both teams. We have divided our roles. So Glenn and I, both the team support managers, but the roles are not divided between men and women's teams. So we're both equally involved with both teams. The divide is more because he was an ex-mechanic, that he's more about the pure mechanical part, the bike part, and I'm with everything around. But the men and women team are definitely equal in everything with this team. They get the same amount of support for everything, whether it's clothing, Roubaix bikes, wheels, tires, aerodynamics testing, the velodrome testing, the wind tunnel testing. There's going to be no man that's getting more testing or more equipment or clothing than any of the women. It's definitely equal.
Mate, you can hear the passion in your voice with this new role. I mean, how important was this role for your rehab and recovery, particularly mentally, going through what you've been through in the last 4 months?
Yeah, I think it was a huge thing, especially in the beginning. When this kind of happened, I guess every ex-bike rider goes through a moment where you think about what's next. And for me, it was what's next, but with 3 fingers less, a big accident behind me that I still had to recover from. So when the accident happened, and pretty much the same day, I still got a message from Luca Guerciolena, the team manager, that I didn't have to worry and I should just get ready for the next job. And then a day later, I got a phone call from Trek that I was officially in the new role that they'd appointed me in it. So I mean, that kind of support and feeling, I guess, is just something that's super important for the recovery. So I never had to worry about what was I going to do or what was going to happen with me afterwards. I knew for sure that I was going to get into this role, and that is something that I really wanted. That I even studied for over the last few years, because I studied the sport management, a master of sport management, because I really wanted a role similar to this one. So I'm super happy that I managed to get this. And then right now it's the wound has healed, but obviously it's still now and then mentally challenging. But when I have this role and so many relies on me, and I feel like I can do a good job, that helps really a lot.
Were you blown away by the support among the cycling community in reaction to your injury?
Yes, no, for sure. I really received a lot. Straight after the accident happened, it just my phone just didn't stop. I got so many messages from everyone. I'm sorry if I didn't get back to you after the accident. It was I read all the messages, but at the time it was pretty hard for me to reply to them all. And then at the end there were so many that I still had to reply to after I felt a little bit better, after maybe 9 or 10 days. That I also didn't want to go back to that moment and then start replying everyone. So I know I just saw before then that you had actually messaged me as well, and I didn't reply to you. So sorry about that.
That's fine, mate. That's fine. The thing is, I always used to refer to it as my old mate. And the good thing about good mates is it doesn't matter when you've caught up. When you do it, it feels like you caught up last week. So that's a big Aussie thing
Absolutely.
as well. So it doesn't matter.
No, absolutely. I agree. And it is just amazing. I got so many messages from everyone in cycling, ex-teammates or current teammates, or riders that I speak a lot to in the bunch from other teams, but also riders that I essentially never spoken to in the race, which is pretty rare because I speak to everyone from every team. So it doesn't happen very often, but it's still some of these riders even message me, whether it was privately, they somehow got my phone number, or on social media. It was quite incredible. So I mean, that was really nice to see it. In a way, that must mean that they respect me, or they at least want to wish me well.
Two things you tick, mate. Great rider, great bloke. You're always going to get
Thanks.
support. No dramas, Kim Dixon says, I thought I saw a photo of Kort at the Women's Paris-Roubaix. How was that experience?
Yeah, I mean, we really came into this role and in the best possible time, because one of the first things I did, like actually the very first thing I did for this role, was take Ellen van Dijk to a velodrome and tested her out on her new semi-custom handlebar, and then straight afterwards we were at the World Championships time trial, and she won, and that was the very first. Then the second was we did a test with the tubeless wheels, new tubeless wheels that we got from Trek, from Bontrager, and then we did a recon with the women, and I told Lizzie to race on the tubeless, because I was really confident that it was going to be great for her, and she raced the tubeless wheels and she won. I mean, it was quite incredible. You can't really get into this role in a better way. But altogether, also this Roubaix was just amazing. She attacked so early, and we were on the side of the road quite a few times, and every time she still looked confident, and she was obviously going hard, but she still looked pretty let's say relaxed, and it didn't seem like she was really struggling. So then she won. Amazing.
She didn't win. She didn't just win. She should have did.
Yeah, absolutely. What an epic win. And she's a great person. I think a great ambassador for the sport. So for her to win an epic race like that, the very first one, I think it was great for women's cycling.
Well, we're just about to take a drinks break, but we're going to go through your career and the best moments and riders that you've ridden with. But talking about Roubaix, it's obviously a special race for you. You won the Under-23 edition in 2004. You had some fantastic memories. Degenkolb won in 2015. How important was that race to you over the years?
Yeah, it's always been my favorite race. When I raced it first in Under-23, I just thought it was the best race in the world, and I've never really thought otherwise. And then, especially when I won it under 23, I think that was also a big reason for me to get that pro contract. And I don't think I've missed many. I think I missed one because I was injured, and I think and I guess now with COVID. Otherwise, I think I've done all of them. And we won it then again with John Degenkolb. I didn't win it personally, but that felt like a team victory when John also called us up on the stage, and the whole team was up there celebrating with him. That was special. So it has always been my favorite race for sure.
If you do want to go to break, or you want to slip a question in before we do,
I'll just whack one in. I was thinking of you, Koen, when I saw all those bikes got stolen from the Italians at the World Championships, and I was thinking with your new role, how devastating that would be at an event when suddenly all the bikes get stolen from a truck. It must be something you have to seriously think about nowadays.
Yes, no, absolutely. We do what we can to make sure it doesn't happen, but you just can't avoid it sometimes. I think they were super ingenious there, weren't they? Isn't that the one where they cut a hole at the top of the truck and then they sort of like fish lined all the bikes out of there? It's just it's quite incredible what they do. I mean, it's super hard if that happens to you. I mean,
it's not far off teams having like 24-hour security. Like, I know where I grew up in Sale, there's a company called Rotti Security. It's just a big fat dude walking around with a Rottweiler, but it worked. If you got a visit from Rotti Security, you're in stride. Maybe they should get a Trek dog, like a Rottweiler, that don't feed it and just let it guard the bikes or something, because it's becoming a pandemic.
No, absolutely. I guess it's harder and harder. More and more people getting into cycling, which is a good thing. But it also attracts more and more criminals. They know the value of these bikes. So yeah, we maybe a Rottweiler is a good idea. Just keep them in a cage outside the truck, and then just let them loose overnight. Just put them in there and see what they do with it.
Exactly. It'd be a shame if a mechanic tried to clock on early though. It'd be interesting, but anyway. Yeah. All right, we're gonna have a drinks break. Yeah, that's it. We'll have a quick drinks break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some classic memories for maybe a career could. Stay tuned.
Great.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Life is like a two-way street. It's about consideration and mutual respect. Roads are much the same. However you get around, walk, ride or drive, if we share our roads, we can all be safer. The Amy Gillett Foundation is Australia's peak cycling safety charity. Our mission is for safe cycling in Australia. Our vision is for 0 cyclist deaths. Over the last year, we've seen an enormous increase in people taking up cycling, whether it be for recreation, with the family, commuting, or even to start your own cycling career. We need to do more to make it safer for every cyclist. 20 cyclists every day are hospitalised, and 1 cyclist is killed every 10 days on Australian roads. So, the next time you jump on your bike or hop in your car, remember to practice the 4 C's. Be courteous, calm, considerate, and conscientious. Every cyclist death is preventable, and we all deserve to get home safely. Please donate to help the Amy Gillett Foundation make the roads safer for you and for me.
Thanks again to Bike Exchange and the Amy Gillett Foundation for their ongoing support. A couple more comments. Tom Maloney says, "Hey, Koen, as a student of linguistics, I find your accent very interesting. There's a mixture of Aussie with a more cultured aspect and none of the typical Euro cyclist, yeah." And then he's backed it up with, "I'm sure you didn't pick up the cultural aspects from Iffy and Dare." Now, come on, John, you're the cultural attaché.
a double whack. Normally it's only me that gets the whack, but there, Dan, you got one too.
Yeah. But I mean, do you get that a lot? A lot of people go, "Hey, your accent, man, what's going on?"
No, absolutely. I actually surprise a lot of the English speakers when I speak Dutch, because they're kind of taken aback that I actually speak Dutch as well. They all think that somehow my mother tongue is English, but no, I definitely still have some Dutch in there, and my accent also changes a little bit over time. Like when I'm in Australia, or when I've been in Australia for a while, I pick up a lot more of the Australian accent, and then when I'm racing and it's so international and kind of with all respect, dumb down your English a little bit so that everybody can understand you, then my accent changes a little bit again.
I reckon it's changed throughout this podcast. You sounded more and more.
It probably has.
For sure. Now, you've ridden with some amazing teams over the years. I want to kick things off by talking about that magical period when Marcel Kittel was just absolutely killing it at races like the Tour de France. Looking back, how special was that period of your career?
Yeah, that was amazing. I mean, that team with Tom Dumoulin and John Degenkolb and Marcel Kittel, we had some incredible bike riders, and we had such a great atmosphere between the riders as well. It really felt like a group of mates on the road, always, And then when we got success, we also really celebrated with the entire team. It was something special, and even afterwards, I've been in great teams and had great teammates, but kind of that feeling that really being on the road with mates, I've never really had the exact same feeling anymore.
We've spoken to a few people about chemistry and how important it is, but how hard is it to get, or is it just one of those things where you bring a team together and guys just click?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of that. I think it just worked because of the riders that we had in the team. Like I think the team there at the time, I think it was called Giant, or was it called 1T4I or Argos, or whatever it was at the time. Argos, mate. I think it was Argos. That's right.
I remember because Marcel took the yellow jersey, and that was the day Green Edge smashed into the finish line.
I know. This that was quite amazing. Where that day actually we had no idea what actually happened. I think we were the only team that had no idea about what happened at the finish line. So
you didn't cook your lead out too early.
No, exactly. So I think that was our luck. Actually, we had no idea. Then all of a sudden we heard on the radio the finish is at the finish line. I just really remember it. I was like, yeah, of course it is.
Well,
like, what are you trying to say? Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
yeah. So we had no idea, but that really helped us. And yeah, then we had the yellow jersey and won a couple more stages that year. It was really incredible. I think part of that was because of the part of the career most of the riders were. Like, we were all pretty young, and also John was doing lead outs for Marcel, and I think a couple of years later that would have become a lot harder. I mean, they're both such good sprinters in their own aspect. It's hard to have one lead out for the other. Then you would have to split them up, and then the lead out train is not as strong anymore. So it just worked in the way that it worked at the time.
The best thing about that year, I remember you won so many stages, is Green Edge. We could sit on your wheel at the duplex after the Champs-Élysées in the final stage. And I remember Marcel had the leader of the vodka with the fireworks coming out the top. And man, it was great. We didn't have to.
I still have that bottle at home. Bottle at home. It's obviously empty. It was empty pretty quickly. Thanks for that as well, Dan. You did a good job there.
Yeah, I think he was onto it, because the next year he was straight up to me like, "Your shout this year," or whatever. Because I think I might have rolled him. But I mean, Marcel he was a really interesting guy, because I mean, you're obviously very close with him. There's a couple of times we got to catch up in Girona, and what struck me is here you have at the time the most dominant sprinter like in the world, and on paper you're thinking, geez, this guy could win 30 stages of the tour, but he came off very reserved at times, and I obviously wasn't aware that he was battling with things like depression and that. But I mean, that must have been such a difficult period, because on one hand, you got someone with such massive talent, but he's fighting this personal battle as well.
No, absolutely. I have to say I didn't really notice too much of that either. What I noticed is that he wasn't the typical sprinter, where most the sprinters, they love to drive fast cars, and it's kind of like a bit aggressive in the race, but I never noticed any of that with Marcel. I think he just drove a sponsored Skoda for his whole career. He was never into fast cars or anything like that, and have never seen him get angry or pick a fight or push people out of the way where it wasn't absolutely necessary for him to start a sprint. I've never seen him do anything like that. So he never was the typical sprinter in that regard. So maybe that was the only thing that I noticed, that he was a bit different to the other guys, but he just had that raw power, right? I mean, he was so strong.
Oh, phenomenal. Phenomenal. But I mean, it raises an interesting point though, because like he came out and talked about, I've got issues with depression. There's a lot of other riders that have come out, particularly in the last couple of years. Do you think it's something that is becoming a lot more acceptable for people to go, hey, if you're not doing well, then speak up and get support where needed?
Yeah, I hope so. I really hope so. I think it's important for everyone, for everyone in the world to speak up when they're battling with something like that. I think there should not be a stigma on that anymore, and I'm really happy that Marcel spoke out about it, and hopefully some more people will. I'm lucky in that regard that I never really had to deal with that, apart from a couple of weeks after my accident, where obviously I was not in a very good space. But during my racing career, I never had to deal with that. But I've always been supporting people to speak about it. Maybe like even seek help. I think that's super important, and it can really make your life better.
Do you think that's something, with all your experience in the new role at Trek, that you want to identify things, particularly with the younger riders, and develop that culture, within the team?
Definitely. I think that is super important. With every sports team, there's so many, there's so much pressure on young people to perform, and a lot of it is pressure on yourself. I always used to do that as well. Like I was probably hardest on myself. I wanted to get the most out of me. Even when the team said that I did a good job, I would still feel like I didn't do well enough, that I should have done better. And for especially young people, this kind of pressure they put on themselves, that can be just too big, too much to overcome, that they can't deal with. So I hope that I can change that a little bit in the culture of cycling, that it's okay to speak about that, and maybe even make a psychologist easier accessible for all the riders, just to make sure they can speak about it, even if it wasn't the first thing on their mind, that they can actually do that.
That's an interesting point you bring up there, Koen, because with your new role in support, that's all about equipment. But they'd be crazy if they didn't use part of your expertise in the fact that you've just been one of the guys and now you're stepping into the other role, to be able to keep an eye on that other side of it, on the rider welfare, because I know it's a pretty tough mix, but it'd be crazy if they didn't use some of your talents there.
No, absolutely. I really hope that I can help a little bit there. In this role that I'm in, also was previously mostly taken by people that came from Trek, from the factory, from the company, and they would go into cycling and fill this role in the team. But I think what I hopefully can bring is more of a connection between the riders and the sponsor. So where it's now coming more from the side of the team and sort of feeding into the company track. I think that maybe that's one of the things that I can change. Hopefully, for track itself, hopefully it means better feedback on bikes and bike tests, etc. But hopefully also something like that, where this kind of culture that track has, that I've seen, which is very open in that regard as well. That hopefully we can take that to the riders.
Is it a hard balance between that relationship with sponsors and the team? Because, from what I saw in the early days with Green Edge, you got sponsors that they want heaps. They want the world. And then the riders and the team, there's pushback. How hard is it to sort of find that balance?
Yeah, no, it is pretty tricky sometimes. I've already seen that now, where riders they want a certain sponsor, but another sponsor brings in more money, and that's what we're going for. And then as you say, we at the Tour de France, there are sponsors there every day, and they want to talk to the riders, and they want pictures before the start, and they want pictures after the finish, and at one point it just gets too much. So you have to find a balance. So hopefully also again I can understand the side of the sponsors, because they give the money, and without the sponsors, the riders wouldn't be making money, or not as much at least. So hopefully I can understand or explain to the riders what's needed from them, and also push back on the sponsors a little bit to how much they can realistically get out of it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was always really impressed with your role in all the different teams. You've been in some of the biggest teams, but because you were a really strong, great in the lead out. You were crucial, second last man often in some of those great sprint stages with Marcel Kittel and John Degenkolb. But also you had a really strong role out the road. I've seen you on the front for many, many kilometres. It was congrats, hats off to you, because you managed to do that really special role. A lot of people are very good at that one part and good at the other part, but you managed to do both.
Thanks, Iffy. That's nice to hear. And I think for me, well, what's always driven me is adapting to situations. So I always, as you said, did the lead out at first, but then I came into like the team captain role. So where I would just be the connection between the directors and the riders. So if there was a decision that needed to be taken on the road, that I would do that. So the split-second decisions without having to wait for a reply from the car behind. And then when I started racing, especially with Alberto Contador, and he said to me, if you can do a lead out for a sprinter, if you can always position him in the right place, then I'm sure you can do it for a climber as well. Position me in for the climb. So then I went in from doing lead outs to sort of looking after a climber all day, and sort of trying to keep him in the front for the sprint, still 3 kilometers to go. And then where before my work started, now my work was pretty much ended. But a lot more work trying to hang in on the climbs, because he would like me to survive the first climb so I could still position him in front for the second climb. So then I had to adapt again, and this is what I've always really enjoyed: just push myself to keep improving.
Did you thrive in that role when you were road captain, or were there days where it's like, oh man, this is just adding layers of shit that I don't need at times?
No, I really enjoyed it. Always did. I think for me it was great to help the leaders of the team. Whether there was Marcel, John, Jasper Stuyven, Alberto Contador, Richie Porte, for that matter. I would talk to these guys and find out what they wanted and how they wanted the race to go, and then I would just make sure that the team knew how to support them with that. So that was always something that I got a lot of satisfaction from. That's exactly what I wanted to go for, and if that worked out, then I felt like I done a good race, and I was proud of myself. And sometimes it resulted in victories, and sometimes it didn't. But I still felt like that's what I should be doing, and what I would be happy with if I achieved it.
How rewarding then were you going to mention, Johnny, the Tour de France podium 2020?
Of course, with Richie. Yeah, exactly.
That must have been an amazing feeling.
Especially after what had been
absolutely.
happening before in the years before,
Yeah. I mean, it's great. Richie's a super nice guy. I mean, you guys both know him really well as well.
Well, he's a nice guy if you get along with him. If you don't, I mean, let's be honest.
Do you get along with him? I get along with him at least.
Really well.
Really well.
I don't have a problem.
I've been on the other end too. Don't you worry. I'm at the whack across the top of the head. But anyway.
Oh right, yeah.
Luckily, I haven't experienced that. He'll be a friend for life.
All right, I'll try to stay there. I'll try to stay. I think I'm still on that side right now, so it's all good.
But like you look at the interviews and the relief and it was just almost a traumatic race for Richie for so many years. Crashing out on stage 9. There was that time where they were going, "Oh, he's the next Aussie hope after Cadell," because Aussie culture is, who's the next guy that's going to win the tour, and there's all this pressure, but to finally get on the podium, it was huge, because I think at the time people go, "Oh, third place is a good result." But it's not until you see the emotion in it and what it means, and then you digest it and you go, "Hang on, shit, this is massive. This is a huge result."
Yeah. No, exactly. I think it even went one step further. Right? At first, they were everybody was thinking that it was going to be the next big Australian hope, and then after a while, it went to like, "Oh well, I bet he'll crash again," and he just keeps crashing, and he can't really get any results when it really counts. So I guess that started to eat him up a little bit. So I was so happy for him. I think it was so well deserved. He always showed he had the talent and the class for it. But he was so often so unlucky, and to finally get that, I was definitely one of the happiest people apart from Richie.
Yeah, sensational.
A couple more.
I was going to say when he punctured on that gravel section, and he punctured the front.
Oh yeah,
had to keep going. I thought, oh no, here it goes again. But he rode really well. So
yeah, and I mean at the end, he was going so strong in the time trial. Yeah, it was quite incredible.
A couple more comments. Will Wizard, he loves technical stuff. He says, "Koen, are you based at Trek's Euro office in Harderwijk or service the course somewhere else?"
Yeah, I will be doing a lot of traveling, so I will still be based in Andorra, where I also lived as a cyclist, and I love it there, so I'm super happy that I can keep living there. But I will be traveling a lot. I will be going to service course of the team. This is in Deinze in Belgium. I will be there a lot. Then I'll probably go 4 or 5 times a year to Waterloo, to Wisconsin, to go visit Trek head office there, and I always go to a lot of races, go to velodromes, wind tunnels. I'll be doing a lot of traveling, but my base will still be Andorra.
Now, you were one of the early riders to go to Girona, and then you saw that take off. Are you seeing similar things now with Andorra as well?
Absolutely, yeah. It really looks a bit like what happened in Girona, where when I was there was maybe 10 professional cyclists living there, and then it went to a place where pretty much half the bunch lived, and a lot of cyclists started businesses there. And at one point I moved to Andorra when there was maybe like 15 or 20 professional cyclists living there, and I think now we're going to 80 or something. I mean, it's going really quick. And now I'm one of the cyclists that started a business in Andorra. Got my own cafe there.
I didn't know that. Where did you do that? No. I'm out of the loop.
Yeah, you have been. Yeah, I started actually just before COVID, unfortunately. So we were open properly for about 2 weeks when we had to close down.
Oh,
so that was an amazing. So lost a bit of money there, but luckily we've had a really good summer, and it's going really well. So it's in La Massana. So I live in Ordino, and the cafe is in La Massana. It's only a couple of kilometers down the road. I think for Andorra, the difference with Girona is that Girona is quite small. Like it's a really beautiful city, but everybody lives in the city, or pretty much everyone lives even in the old center there. So at one point it was pretty hard to not see a cyclist in the streets. And I think it is a bit different for Andorra, where the country is still relatively big in that regard. Where if you live in one of the towns outside of the city, then you don't really see many other cyclists except for when you're out on the roads training. But just in general life, you can catch up with people, but you're not forced upon other people. And I think that's that bit I do like as well.
Now, John, you want to ask another question. It better be about cafes and food, because I want to go on with this a little bit. What are you going to say?
I was going to say, Dan and I know a chef in Andorra who might be very good for your cafe. Evening meals. He's great with octopus. And
it's an inside joke. About 2009, we went to Andorra for the Tour de France, and we went just for a meal with 6 journos. And Andre had on the menu, calamari. We said, "Oh yeah, sweet, order the calamari." He brought out 3 buckets of this stuff, and then we were like, "Oh, octopus.
All the tentacles."
Yeah, no. And then we ordered lamb for main. We had a 2-kilo leg of lamb each. Like on each plate.
Way.
So we'll try and track him down for you. But obviously,
please let me know.
Oh no, you don't want to go near that guy. Your overheads, mate. You won't make any money.
Exactly.
But he gave us a lot of free grog as well. So no, that's no good.
No, his business model was backwards, mate. But spending so much time in Melbourne, I mean, the cafe culture here is huge. Have you been able to take some of that to Andorra? I mean, have you got eggs Benedict on the menu? Have you got snot blocks, vanilla slices? Have we got any Aussie flavour over there?
We don't have vanilla slices, but we've got the smashed avocado and poached eggs. Got eggs Benedict.
Yes.
So that's exactly the stuff that we want. We still need to get to the Lamingtons, I think. But otherwise we're pretty much there. We've got what we're selling most of is good coffee and cakes. We're going through a lot of cakes every day. Like cheesecake, carrot cake. Carrot cake is definitely the one that we sell most of. Yeah? Absolutely.
Oh yeah, mate. You're
absolutely. Come for a visit, Dan. Always welcome.
I will. I'll be back. Don't worry about that. Detour tour is iffy once we get it all up and running.
We'll be over there this year, mate. Dan and I.
Effie is definitely invited as well.
Yeah. Tom Maloney says, "Koen, you come across as a super pleasant guy, empathetic, willing to learn, adapt, and teach others all the best, mate." And
thanks, Tom.
Abbott says, "Does this mean you won't be coming back to live in Australia?"
That's a very good. That's a very good question, Superfan. I would eventually love to move to Australia. It's still a country I would love to go to, but in professional cycling, in cycling as a sport, right now in Australia, it's still pretty hard to get a job. So once I've had enough of professional cycling, I hope I can find a nice job in Australia and eventually settle down there. That's still the dream.
Well, Sounds maybe good. You can link up with Iffy and start some amazing events as well.
I think that would actually not be a bad idea. So Iffy, just send me a message later and we'll work it out.
Always a job at the bakery, you know that, mate.
Yeah, good.
There's a week covered, mate. You're laughing. But, mate, so what do you got planned for the next couple of days in the Maldives before you have to head back and get back to work?
Yeah, we'll do a little bit more diving and going to go snorkeling later on today. I think we're doing a island hop trip, so we're just going on a boat and go off a couple of different islands and go snorkeling. Tomorrow morning is the scuba diving, and now I'm starting to get pretty hungry, so I think it's time for lunch.
Wash it down with a few bottles of champers, mate. Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. You know it.
Yeah. Amilla.com. Go check out where Koen's staying. Jason Cruz and the team. Fantastic people and fantastic resort. But, mate, it's been
Jason's been great.
He's such a good guy. And
he really is. It's a shame he's not here now, but he is obviously also doing his job right now. So he's not on holiday. So, I see him running around sometimes, like at lunch, he just comes and runs past. He goes like, "How's it going today?" Like, yeah, it's all good. All right, great. And then I see him again at dinner. Otherwise he's just busy working. So I think he had a big job with this island to get it all on track, but he really has done a phenomenal job. It's I went to the island he was running previously as well, which is great. Thanks to that, Dan. He would have wanted to hook me up with that contact in the first place. So but
just give me some carrot
become
cake
great
and
friends.
we'll call it evens.
Yeah, exactly. No problem. You can get a whole carrot cake. See if you can get through it. So no problems at all.
And Rebecca Bertrand says it's been a pleasure listening to you, Koen. Couldn't agree more, mate. You're an absolute superstar, and no doubt you're going to be very, very successful in your new role at Trek, for sure. If
Thanks,
anything
guys.
before we go.
No, look, just great to chat, mate, and to see your bright, smiling face, and really look forward to catching up in the flesh next year, which we definitely will. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again in Europe, and hopefully I'll be back in Australia, maybe for the World Championships. That would be quite nice.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
Hopefully see you guys there.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Well, thanks for being on the detour, mate. And thanks to you guys for tuning in as well. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, youtube.com/detour podcast. We'll be back again next Thursday at 6:30 p.m. And stay tuned for that. Thanks again, Koen. Enjoy your scuba diving, mate.
Thanks, I will. See you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.